Alright, so we got the 224 spoilers, and we're going directly into GOJO versus SUKUNA round 2 here. So let me just quickly catch you up to speed on what happened in round 1 in the previous chapter. So we saw GOJO get together for this group effort attack with Urahime, Gakuganji, and Ichiji. And the end result was GOJO firing off this 200% hollow purple at SUKUNA. And it caught SUKUNA by surprise, taking off his right arm. We were wondering like, oh, is he going to be able to reverse curse technique back from this? Because, you know, maybe there was some kind of complication with the hollow purple. But no, SUKUNA is instantly healing himself. Like, we barely even see him do it in the beginning of this chapter. It's kind of just an afterthought. So they're both back to full health, essentially. And the chapter starts with SUKUNA trash talking GOJO. And he says, "Gojo Satoryu, you are just a fish on the cutting board, just a little lively than the others, a fish without a name. First, I'll get rid of your scales." So that's interesting trash talk from SUKUNA. More so because it's yet another like sushi analogy, or just another sushi or chef cutting parallel to SUKUNA. We've seen this before when his cleave and dismantle was first explained. This could go more into SUKUNA's backstory or how he acquired these abilities, or maybe it's just a fun little thing that Gege is doing that we shouldn't read too much into. GOJO asks SUKUNA why he's still keeping that face and says he went through some special trainings. But GOJO says he can punch Megumi without mercy because he looks like Toji. GOJO says he'll think about Megumi after killing SUKUNA. So this is another thing that we have to keep in mind. We have to assume that GOJO is holding back somewhat because SUKUNA is in Megumi's body, which is unfortunately forever tainting this fight, which of course Gege is doing purposely. It would just be too good if it was just like pure SUKUNA, you know, in his whatever you want to consider his true body, if he'll ever have that again, or just his main corporeal form, we'll say. We probably won't see that. This is like the best that it's going to get, I assume, like 19 finger or 19 and a half finger SUKUNA in Megumi's body taking on GOJO. It kind of reminds me of like a One Punch Man fight. Like there's always like this little bit of somebody holding back, even though it's been apparently made clear that this is more of a Hunter x Hunter / Yu Yu Hakusho homage fight. Also, another little interesting thing is GOJO saying that Megumi looks like Toji here, and I guess he does. I mean, he is his son after all, but GOJO is straight up dressed like Toji. I think I might have mentioned this in the previous review, but I think Gege did this on purpose for some reason. But anyway, we're going like immediately into them just having hand-to-hand combat here. Like SUKUNA is throwing a body kick to GOJO, but he's catching it. Then GOJO's throwing like a right straight, and SUKUNA is parrying it. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, HOFSCO. HOFSCO strives to make the best and reliable electric bikes for bike lovers, helping all cyclists live an active, healthy, and sustainable lifestyle. Their goal is to build a long-lasting brand, get more people on bikes to experience the e-bike smile, and begin an incredible adventure journey. And they're not lying about the e-bike smile, because guys, this is by far one of the best things I've ever received in my life, because this thing is truly incredible and has completely changed my life for the better. Now, I live in the inner city, and since I became a content creator full-time a couple years ago, I no longer saw the need for a car, and I got rid of it, which was like a huge burden off my shoulders. I didn't have to worry about parking, maintenance, gas, insurance. I don't think I've driven a car in like the last 3 years, and I was kind of just taking rideshare apps to get to long distances, and aside from that, I'd of course be walking everywhere in between. But I don't have to worry about that ever again now that I have the HOFSCO HOV City step-through cruiser electric bike. Now, of course, this thing looks incredibly aesthetic. Just taking this out for a 15-minute stroll today, I had people constantly glancing at it. It's a class 2, but can be class 3 unlocked via the HOFSCO app, which is super simple to use. It has a Shimano 7-speed shifter for if you want to go golden boy mode. What I also like to do is pair the shift speeds with the motor on, so I can just go through inclines and hills no problem. And speaking of the motor, it has a 500-watt brushless gear hub motor and goes up to speeds of 28 miles per hour. This thing is incredibly fast. If you live in a city that has electric scooters, this thing blows those things out of the water. So if you think they're fast, this thing takes it to the next level. And you can just tap on the throttle and you're pretty much cruising. You don't even have to pedal. Like, check this out. It was so much fun doing this. It also has a 60-mile range battery, along with a flashlight and super powerful brakes for when you really need them. My girlfriend also really loves this thing because now she can commute to college. Sometimes she had to take the bus or just couldn't find parking in her car. Well, that's not an issue anymore with the Hav City Step-Through Cruiser electric bike. So guys, if you're interested in completely changing your lives for the better and just adding pure fun to your life, check out my link in the description and make sure you use code BIGZ for $100 off your purchase. That's right, $100 off using code Big Z. Oh, by the way, since you're still here, Havsco also has other great products, such as their folding e-bikes, the Hav Beta, which becomes compact and easy to travel, such as if you're putting it in your car, or if you need to store it in your apartment. They also have cargo e-bikes, such as the Hav Cart, if you're ever having a trip to the grocery store, or if you're picking up a package or something. They also have the very affordable Hav Dash e-scooter. Thanks, guys. But then Sukuna throws this right hook, almost like a shovel hook, and it looks almost exactly the same as a right hook that Yuji has thrown before. Now, either this is just how Gege likes to draw his right hooks, or it could mean something more. You know, maybe Yuji adopting that, or Sukuna adopting it. Probably not. I think it's just the way that he likes to draw them, but it still is interesting nonetheless. But Gojo ducks this punch by totally laying on the floor, and he blasts Sukuna to the wall. So the way that Gojo blasts Sukuna to the wall is interesting. It's like he's reverting Limitless at him. And we're going to see Gojo use Limitless in this manner throughout this chapter. It's almost like he just has full-blown telekinesis by manipulating Limitless. Because the way that we're supposed to perceive this is like it's this imaginary force. So it can be shielding him, or he can use it offensively as well and permeate it around to, I guess, simulate telekinesis to some extent. Even though he's not literally, performing telekinesis, it just looks like that because of the fundamentals of Limitless and how he's applying them. Sukuna is blasted through building pillars, but just as he regains his stance, Gojo starts chasing Sukuna by power stabbing his foot wherever he is and breaks down the bridge they were on. So yeah, he's blasting Sukuna into this wall, and then Sukuna regains his footing, but Gojo is just right after him, firmly stepping into the ground, creating craters where he goes, trying to track down Sukuna, but he also knocks the bridge that they're on. They also wind up going onto this bridge after getting hit through this building. Keep in mind that they are in the city, of course, so they're moving from architecture to architecture. And yeah, Gojo's so powerful that he can just foot stomp this bridge that they're on to the ground, breaking it apart. And I really do like the way the dynamic of this fight is going, because Gojo is holding true to his word. It almost is like Sukuna is challenging him, and it's not the other way around. Sukuna is almost like the underdog here, or he's fighting the way that an MC would, and Gojo is more like the heel or the villain. He's like the big bad aggressor. He's fighting like a boss would. Gojo lifts the piece of the bridge where Sukuna was and throws it towards a building while Sukuna is on it. So yeah, once again, Gojo using Limitless in this telekinetic manner where he's manipulating objects with it, and he lifts this entire piece of the bridge that he stomped off with Sukuna on it, then launches it at a building. This is the most all out, I guess you could say, that we've seen Gojo go in the series since his fight with Toji. Before this, he even had to hold back even more than he is kind of now. Keep in mind because, he's fighting Megumi's body after all, and he doesn't want to kill Megumi. But before that, there was always some kind of stipulation or something as to why he couldn't go all out. But now they just have this playground of an empty city to go at it. So now we're going to see some crazy stuff like this, and this is only the beginning. And I'm not even just saying that to hype you guys up. This is Gege just giving us an appetizer, and you'll understand what I mean by the end of this chapter. But Sukuna escapes from the crash and points a finger gun towards Gojo and says dismantle. So yeah, Sukuna returning the favor, because before this, Gojo is just manipulating Limitless with his two fingers, and Sukuna's kind of doing the same thing but just with one singular finger, and he's using dismantle as we've seen before. It was explained that he can use cleave and dismantle. Those are some of his abilities, aka curse techniques. And this dismantle is so powerful that it slashes off the building behind Gojo. And Miyamura asks, did Gojo evade it, or did the slash bounce off Gojo's infinity? infinity? And that is a great question, which is not really being answered in this chapter. We kind of just can go off of the contextual clues here, and even that's not enough. So Gojo does see the dismantle coming at him, and he looks like worried for a second, like, ugh, you're avoiding like a punch coming at you at the last second. So it is possible it bounced off of his infinity, or he just evaded it at the last second. But either way, it's going through a building like cake. Like Sukuna cleanly cuts this building in half. But as he does that, he's immediately like rebounding on Gojo. Like Gojo looks at the building being cut behind him for a second, and we already see Sukuna in his peripherals. And Sukuna tries to power punch Gojo as the previously sliced off building starts to fall, but Gojo's infinity doesn't allow Sukuna's punch to land the hit, yet Gojo offs his infinity and grabs Sukuna as they crash into the building. So this is another interesting sequence that isn't fully being explained here. And let me just also mention that I like this. I like when we just have fights play out and there's not all of this exposition attached to it and all of this internal monologues, which is something I think that Gege is improving off of Togashi's writing while also paying homage to it. Because yeah, Sukuna's punch does come up on Gojo, and Gojo puts his right hand up to block it, and we see the Limitless around it, or infinity. Both are the same thing, it's just whatever translation you want to go off of. But we see another panel next to it with Gojo looking surprised somewhat, and then he seemingly deactivates the infinity or the Limitless and catches Sukuna's hand. So I guess it's Gojo looking at the building falling. Then he decides that it would be a better idea to grab Sukuna in this instance and have them both go into the building as it falls on them, because they fall into like one of the windows. Instead of like crashing through one of the walls, they're going cleanly through a window here. And Gojo and Sukuna proceeds to fight inside of the falling building. They put up a door between them and prepare to punch through it really hard. So yeah, this is like something out of Inception. This is a really amazing sequence. Gege just easily setting it up for the animation department here. Like almost just giving them storyboards. Like they don't have to improvise or give too much input into this sequence when it's animated in like 4 years or 5 years, who knows. Really good art from Gege in this sequence as well. We'll go over all of this on Sunday when the official comes out. I always review that, so if you haven't subscribed yet, guys, please subscribe, because I always cover the spoilers and I always cover the official reviews on Sunday. The building in which Gojo and Sukuna were throwing hands at each other crashes down. So yeah, the building comes down and it causes mass destruction all around. But of course, they're fine, and they just casually walk out of the dust smoke from the building crash. And Gojo says, "I'm gonna make it your fault for all the catastrophe." And Sukuna's like, "Look who's talking." And Gojo suddenly realizes, oh crap, Mei-san is having this hooked up. So yeah, that's Gojo realizing and reminding the audience that this is being live streamed. That's an important reminder, and it could play into the future developments in this fight, or the developments afterwards, I should say, whatever the result is. But I do like the way that this chapter ends with both of them just casually walking out, and they're both smiling and very nonchalant. Like they know that this was just literally a warm-up, like through and through. They barely really used any of their power. They were kind of just testing each other out, seeing, I don't know, how hard each other can go. And this gives me so much hope for the rest of this fight, because I mentioned this in the previous review, but considering that we got multiple page chapters for most, if not all, of the Culling Game fights that we're focused on, and being that this is the Super Bowl of Jujutsu Kaisen, Gege is going to deliver on this, and I think we're going to at least get 5 chapters dedicated to this fight. Especially since this chapter, like we just talked about, was a warm-up. Like things are going to get really crazy, especially since Sukuna said that he undergone some training. We still don't know how Sukuna is going to fully deal with Limitless yet, so the future is so bright, and oh my god, I cannot wait for this. But we are going on break next week, unfortunately, but it's fine. I will try to get the Jujutsu Avengers together, you know, the other content creators that I do collabs with. Hopefully they'll all be free and we'll be able to get another collab out for you guys next week on break. So also subscribe for that as well, and have a great day, guys. Let me know what you think about this stuff in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.